And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another tremendous installment from very high above all the puerile and insipid and what other adjectives could I use this morning? Vacuous, perfidious,
worthless
Wyoming media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Thursday. Just to give you a rundown of what's going to happen during for the next couple of days on the program. Tomorrow we'll be in the home studio. Ken is going to be off doing whatever it is that Ken does. Nobody knows. He just takes, he has to deal with me for 3 days, and then he needs a vacation.
That's enough.
I am convinced.
I have a word for you, by the way.
What's that?
I should have thrown this out there earlier, but Dr. Seuss has a book where he's, did I ever tell you how lucky you are?
Yes.
And he uses a phrase, the piffulous pay. I think piffulous.
Piffulous?
Piffulous. Pitiful. You have to take it in context because I don't think you can look it up in your big old dictionary.
Well, we're only interested in words we can look up.
But Dr. Seuss, you can look it up. Look it up in
Dr. Seuss.
If it's in his book, it's real.
Well, that's
more real than the internet.
It's interesting you bring that up because there are a lot of things that we would think you should be able to look up in books and find facts. One of those being that if you are going to run for politics in Wyoming, if you are not from Wyoming, you get pilloried. Have you noticed that? That if you did not grow up here and you do not have 47 generations behind you, then you have no business.
I do, and I get pilloried anyway.
Yes,
the hell was that about?
But in every group, you have the exception that doesn't prove the rule. That's where you're at.
I can list you several of us.
But if you grew up in, I don't know, like South Dakota, then you would obviously be a rabbit choker.
And you deserve it.
Well, I would think so. Or, maybe if you grew up in Colorado, that might be a problem. No, wait a minute. Because Poison Barry Crago grew up in South Dakota, and Landon Brown grew up in Colorado, and a whole bunch of them grew up in other places. But it doesn't appear, it's the narrative that if you're a conservative and you grew up somewhere else, well, then we shouldn't even listen to anything that you want. Anything you have to say. It's as ridiculous as saying if Rhode Island came up with a cure for cancer, these folks in Wyoming would say, well, we can't use the Rhode Island cure for cancer. We have to have our own Wyoming cure for cancer. As if the only good ideas on how to run an effective and conservative government come from Wyoming. Well, that's not true at all. And you know why? How we know that that's not true, Ken? Because there is a piece in the Wyoming Turkey Vulture this morning that proves it. And here's how we know, one of the reasons we know, that maybe this candidate isn't as conservative as you would be led to believe. Now, the title of this piece is Cheyenne rancher business owner announces campaign for House 43. House 43 is kind of south of Cheyenne. That's a seat currently held by Ann Lucas, Great friend of the program, great conservative. But now this Crowder person is going to run against her. And, as conservatives, we don't really have any problems with people entering the race. We're more interested in the cause of conservatism. Of course, we want our people to win, but we're more interested in what the beliefs are of the people that are running. But here's how you know that this person may not be all that conservative. Now, I'm taking a giant leap here, but this is a piece written in the Wyoming media, and generally speaking, if you're from out of town, they don't want to hear from you if you're a conservative. But it has this paragraph in it. Crowder grew up on a cattle ranch in central New Mexico and earned her undergraduate and graduate degrees in range science from Texas Tech University. And then it goes on to say her career has focused on land management, conservation, natural resource policy, working with landowners, state agencies, and local communities across the West. You know what is not in that paragraph? Where she made her way to Wyoming. And this is how you know that
She didn't.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, she
She's
made it
in
to Cheyenne.
Cheyenne.
But here's my point, that if you're a conservative and you happen to move here from somewhere else, well, then obviously your ideas don't count. And it is only those people who are on the left that get a pass on that whole thing. It just shows you the hypocrisy of the Wyoming media. The absolute contradiction that is in all of their arguments. Now, the truth is, I don't know this Crowder person. I'm going to reach out to her and see if she wants to do an interview on the program. But my point is in talking about the media. If it were any other conservative currently serving and that paragraph existed, well, then, it would be she's not from Wyoming and her opponent has 47 other generations in Wyoming. And, I had somebody comment on one of my posts, how dare you exaggerate? There are not 27 generations in Wyoming. No kidding, and that's the point.
That's the point, yeah. Speaking of multi-generational Wyoming families.
Yes, stop talking about my family.
No, not yours. I'm going to talk about Bill Alaman's family. Back in the days of the Johnson County War, his family, my family, were neighbors.
Uh-huh.
He was sheep people. We weren't, but we didn't shoot at him.
Okay.
Somebody did. Anyway, all of that to say, happy birthday, Bill Alamand.
Happy birthday, Representative Alaman. I quite like him. And I think one of his best qualities is, he's very similar to Chip in that he is just like you and me. And the way that he looks at things, I mean, he can take a pretty complicated subject and he'll think about it for a little bit. And he'll say, that reminds me of when I was out in my pickup checking wells.
He's a great guy, and the way that you can tell is because the media hates him.
Yeah, despises him.
Kind of like with Dan Quayle. I didn't know much about Dan Quayle when he came onto the scene, but first thing you heard was how bad a person he was, and et cetera, this, that, and the other thing. I thought, wow, Dan must be a great guy.
He must be a
and
fantastic
really
guy. You know who is not all that of a fantastic guy?
You want the whole list or just the top 10?
I just need one, though he's probably not top of the list.
Tom Lubnow.
Yes, Tom Lubnow.
How did we know?
How did you guess, Ken?
I read too.
Well, he has another piece of Democrat drivel in the cow pie, and this one is entitled "Protecting the Rule of Law." Now, you might say, well, of course, Tom Lubnow is protecting the rule of law. He's a lawyer. Well, the presumption behind that being that all lawyers protect the rule of law. Now, in his piece, he is complaining about somebody who had the temerity to record a meeting of a whole bunch of Wyoming lawyers.
Who would do a thing like that?
I would. I mean, if I happened to be in that meeting, I definitely would record it. And the best part of it is that they repeat the same things that not only that you hear in the media, but that you hear from national Democrats. So, for example, Ken, play the soundbite. WTLA, so Wyoming Trial Lawyers Association, threats to democracy.
I'm finding it.
That's okay.
You
it's
gave
all right.
me a whole tussle of them this morning.
There are quite a few of them. This is true.
join us for this conversation over the noon hour with Tim Stubbson, Tom Lubnow, and Tara Nethercott, providing some information about what they have seen and are seeing in terms of threats to our democracy within the state of Wyoming.
There it is. Threats to our democracy within the state of Wyoming. Now, you would think, being lawyers,
They don't listen to this show, so they don't know.
well, no, they don't know, but being lawyers, you would think they would understand that we don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic.
I doubt that law schools still teach that. Just we should ask. We have a young lady who is a good attorney who just came out of UW Law School and was not corrupted, and we should ask her if they actually teach that.
You know what? When we get a minute, we'll open up the phone lines, and if you happen to be a Wyoming attorney, and we would like to know if you learned that we don't live in a democracy, that we actually live in a republic. We would like to know if that class was taught in your law school tutelage. Here's how Tom Lubnow begins his piece. I quote,
love that word.
Isn't it fun?
Especially when it comes to attorneys.
The brilliance of our founding fathers is setting up a system of checks and balances between the branches of government is evident even today. I only wish our elected legislators had enough trust in the people to give them an opportunity to vote on controversial issues.
How the hell did they get elected?
Well, precisely. The Wyoming Freedom Caucus minions attended a meeting of attorneys concerned about the direction of our state, concerned about the direction our state is moving, and surreptitiously recording the media. Now, I didn't prepare this soundbite, but in the beginning of that meeting, which, by the way, was held on January 27th. So it's a couple months old. But at the very beginning of it, the guy says, now, there may be members of the media here, and we just, this is not on the public record. So we just ask you to respect our speakers. Of course, the speakers are Tom Lubnow, Tim Stubbson, old Stubby, and Slithers Nethercott. Are you kidding me? Any journalist worth their salt that was in that meeting would hit record. Oh, and by the way, Ken, play the soundbite WTLA Media Partners. Listen to this.
We welcome the media as partners in what we're trying to do.
Oh, so
he's defaming the media.
He is. But he's saying that the Trial Lawyers Association is partners. We welcome them as partners with what we're trying to do. And what they're trying to do, of course, is figure out ways to, I guess, delegitimize the Wyoming Freedom Caucus, to get them unelected. That's what the whole call is about. And the majority of what Tom Lubnow talks about is all of this dark money. But before I get to that point, let's continue on with his drivel. And I quote. About an hour-long discussion, the Freedom Caucus took a 15-second soundbite of what Senator Slithers Nethercott, where she said we need more lawyers, perhaps engaging in what we see as lawfare, in order to defend the rule of law, in order to protect both the judicial branch and our democracy. Let's see here. Play WTLA Slithers Lawfare. This is the soundbite I played yesterday.
You heard Tim do kind of a call out that we need more lawyers perhaps engaging in what we see as this lawfare in order to defend the rule of law, in order to both protect the judicial branch and our democracy. And I think that time is certainly upon us, as Tim indicated. It's not a matter of if, but when and how heavy those attacks are going to come on the independence of the judicial branch, as we have heard and as I have fought back concerns over the election of judges, which I strongly oppose, and I encourage you to oppose as well. We will continue to see those efforts in the legislature.
So more than 15 seconds, but did you hear what she said? She encourages more lawyers to engage in lawfare to, quote, protect the rule of law. Now, if you just type in define lawfare into Google, here's what you get. a legal action undertaken as part of a hostile campaign against a country or a group. So here you have the sitting majority floor leader encouraging a group of lawyers to start a hostile campaign against a group. That is the Wyoming Freedom Caucus.
A group of people who were duly elected by their constituents, some quite overwhelmingly.
Yeah. Some of them without this in this last election that didn't even have an opponent. I'm not saying that vouches for the quality of the candidate, but it tells you that district likes the person that they have in office because nobody filed to run against them. I mean, again, that's an assumption. But if a district was thoroughly displeased with their representation, you would think that somebody else would step forward. That's not to say that everybody that steps forward to run against an incumbent is a conservative or is a quality candidate or in any way ought to be in office. But it's a pretty good indication that if you don't have an opponent, well, your district's got to be pretty happy with you. Now, I don't know about like House 29, Ken's current district. You didn't have an opponent last year.
No, and slightly more than half of my district is happy with me.
Yeah. I mean, you got, well, I mean, of course, you were unopposed in the last election, so it's just kind of, fill in the box. But again, you would think if they were pissed at you, somebody would run against you.
Well, slightly less than half of them are pissed at me.
Well, that's okay. Continuing. Let's see here.
It's interesting, though. They're pissed at me for doing exactly what I said I was going to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, according to the Sheridan Press, and well, I mean, how often do we question the veracity of the Sheridan Press? Like all the time, except for that one comment.
You have this circular argument there that is defeating itself.
I know. Okay, here we go. So from Lubnau's piece, folks who don't like the outcome of a case can appeal to a higher court. And if you still don't like that court's interpretation of the law, the remedy again lies in the hands of the people and the legislature who can change the law. Wyoming judges decide thousands of cases each year. The vast majority of their decisions simply resolve disputes between people who need help through the business disagreement, the marriage dissolution, traffic ticket, or criminal charge. The courts do their work so that people can get on with their lives without resorting to violence. Once in a rare, I don't know. I mean, I can't vouch for the grammar of Tom Lubnau. I mean, he's an attorney, so, I mean, whatever.
He's far better educated than we.
Yeah, clearly. Once in a rare, I'm just reading it, while the courts are presented with a case that deals with a topic people feel strongly about, like abortion, there is no outcome to a case like that which some group of people will not strongly object to. That's not the fault of our courts. Judges don't get to choose their cases. Well, he's right about that. Most of the time. But the truth is, we have a lot of evidence nationwide that the system is kind of rigged. What about Judge Boasberg? Case after case against the Trump administration went to Boasberg's court. Abortion case after abortion case after abortion case went to Melissa Owens's court, the district judge in Jackson who first struck down the ban on abortion. And so you can't tell me that all of that is entirely random. So Wyoming judges decide thousands of cases each year. This is true. But there's not that many to say that this judge is going to get this type of case over and over. Now, the rest of what Tom Lubnau is talking about is how there's a whole bunch of dark money floating around, and it's all of it is favoring conservatives. And he goes to great lengths during the meeting to talk about all the various groups that are funding these terrible Freedom Caucus candidates. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but lawyers tend to make a pretty good wage, I would think. I would say even if you're a mediocre lawyer, you probably do pretty well.
Well, they charge hefty fees.
They do charge hefty fees. And it is lawyers who have direct access to the courts. It's very difficult to take any case to the court if you don't have a lawyer. And overwhelmingly, the Wyoming Bar and the Trial Lawyers Association are not exactly conservative, hence their guests, Tom Lubnau and Senator Slithers. And so why is it then that we should assume that the meeting that was recorded by some Freedom Caucus minion in some dark corner spying on their operations, Why should we think that that is somehow a threat to our democracy? Well, first,
This was a public meeting, right?
well, yeah. I mean, in the beginning, they say it's open to just about everybody. But one of the very first things that they say in the beginning, and I should have prepped that soundbite, but the guy hosting it says, well, if you're members of the media, we want to put all this off the record. Well, you don't get to have a meeting that's open to the public and then claim that it's off the record, especially when you're saying things that, aren't necessarily true. So, for example, Ken, and do you need a roll of duct tape before we go to this next soundbite?
No, I got these special titanium headphones.
Okay, good. So play the soundbite. Lubnow Coalition members.
So, Young Americans for Liberty has a coalition of legislators and elected officials that are affiliated. The Colorado Times reporter refers to them as a network of extreme conservative legislators from across the country. Colorado Times reporter article continues that the Hazlett Coalition's website, which is now down, coincidentally, describes a growing network of 300 plus liberty legislators from nearly 40 states, supported by full.
I kind of thought you might want to do that.
Well, he says more than 300 legislators. How did they get to be legislators? They won their districts.
They were elected. Now, before we continue,
which Tom Lubnow got de-elected, if I'm not mistaken, or de-retire.
I don't know. We can
But,
look and see.
but the point is, he did serve, and he knows what it takes to get there.
Yes, he does.
So,
okay, so Young Americans for Liberty. This is the group that, they are one of the main targets of the Wyoming left.
they are not the Hazlitt
No,
group, but they are affiliated. They work together.
Yes. So and we're going to continue with the soundbite in just a second. But what he's talking about are these dark, nefarious groups that are funneling loads of cash into Wyoming elections. So, and one of the things later on in the recording, he laments that Wyoming elections are changed forever. There's all this money flowing in. Yeah, well, what about Americans for Prosperity? What about the gigantic sums of money that were dumped into this election that favored all of the liberal incumbents? Now, of course, they won't talk about that because it's.
What about co-opting the Democrat Party and taking all their money and throwing it at us as well?
Yes. So why have a lot of allegedly conservative groups decided to get involved in Wyoming elections? Because you have to balance the scale. When you have a tremendous amount of money coming from groups like Americans for Prosperity, you have to have money on the other side so that if you're conservative or even if you're not, but if you're just not part of their group and you want to run for office, well, you have to be able to fundraise. Now, Young Americans for Liberty, and Ken, correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was a bunch of flyers that went out, mailers, that went out during the last election that weren't exactly correct. And a lot of those were not all that helpful in districts because they just didn't have the facts right.
They put the wrong picture on a particular flyer or put the district number around. It was just some sloppy workmanship. And it caused me no small amount of consternation.
Yeah.
I got a lot of phone calls. We see your name on this Hazlitt list. And yeah, at one point, several years ago, I'd been added to that list. And what the list was designed to do was they would call various legislators around the state and say, who do you think, what do you think about this, and who should we support, who should we not? And we gave our opinion, and then they decided from there.
Right.
They very seldom took my advice, frankly, and I pulled the plug some time ago. But there's more to that story.
Yeah. Okay. So let's back that soundbite up just a tiny bit, and then hit play, and we'll listen to the rest of it.
Which is now down, coincidentally, describes a growing network of 300 plus liberty legislators from nearly 40 states, supported by full-time Young American for Liberty staff for principled policies that free markets and protect civil liberties and promote peace. The several Wyoming legislators and statewide officials proudly list themselves as Young American Liberty's Hazlett Coalition. Those members are Bo Beitman, or were when the website was up, Bo Beitman, Bob Ide, Bill Alamand, Ocean Andrew, John Baer, Jeremy Haroldson, Ben Hornock, Tony Locke, Chip Nyman, Ken Pendergraft, Sarah Penn, Daniel Singh, Scott Smith, and at the time Jeanette Ward was in the
Okay, so
legislature.
stop.
So at the time.
What do all of those people have in common? They're all largely conservative. So why is it a problem for Tom Lubnow that this group is supporting legislators? I mean, the Trial Lawyers Association supports candidates. Why is it a problem that Young Americans for Liberty or this Hazlitt Coalition supports those candidates?
And what difference does it make, really? I mean,
It doesn't make any difference.
yeah,
It's the boogeyman.
It's not illegal. Anybody wants to give to a candidate can give to a candidate, and the candidate can accept or reject it. And if somebody's taking money from somebody you don't like, don't vote for them. But they're trying to turn this into inflect that it's a criminal operation.
Yeah, well, it's dark money. It's nefarious. We don't know where the money's coming from. I mean, that's the narrative, right? Don't trust these people because they're associated with this group and because they support conservatives. Well, obviously they're bad. Now, he doesn't come out and say that, but that's the implication.
I would say a similar thing toward like Wyoming Trial Lawyers Association or the Wyoming County Commissioners Association.
Yep.
You can tell a lot about a person by who they run with. And you go look at what these groups stand for and how they want people to vote, it'll tell you a lot.
Now, the other important point here, and the reason I prepped this soundbite, is that Tom Lubnow, being a lawyer, talking to other lawyers, should know the importance of checking his facts. Now, the truth is, he does say in that soundbite that, well, when the website was up, these people were members. Okay, so this meeting was held in January. Now, the truth of the matter is our pal Agent 29 has told that group repeatedly that he's not a member. It doesn't want to be associated. I don't want to be on the list well before January. But did Tom Lubnow bother to pick up the phone and say, hey, Ken, are you part of this group? Or did he call Jeanette Ward and say, Jeanette, are you part of this group? Or even his pal Dennis Beitman. Did he call Dennis and say, hey, Dennis, are you part of this group? No, he didn't. Tom Lubnow is as guilty as the groups that he's attacking because he doesn't check his facts. He doesn't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, he said he went back and looked and the website was down. I suspect, and I don't know because I don't have much communication with that group, I suspect that they were just updating it because we have a new legislature. You know, he pointed out Jeanette Ward and Sarah Penn and some
Ben
others.
Hornock.
Yeah. And I have to say this to be fair. I had a conversation with the Hazlitt group. I've never had much of any kind of a decent conversation with Young Americans for Liberty because they botched things so badly.
Right.
It was not the Hazlitt group that did that. They are associated, but they didn't.
Right.
They didn't do that. They don't send out checks to individual. They work with propaganda. And basically, I just agreed to a bit of a truce with
a
Hazlitt.
ceasefire.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything bad about them. They're not supposed to say anything bad about me. It's just, you know, they came to me and said, hey, we really like the way you vote. We'd like to support you. And I said, I just don't want to be on your list because of what happened in the past. I bear you no ill will. You know,
I just don't want to be part of your group.
Conversation went back and forth, and we'll see what the new website says.
All right, there's one more piece of this besides Tom Lubnow not checking his facts and all that, and we'll do that after the break. But first, let's get a brief timeout. An outrageous exposition of pure capitalism. Back in a minute. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Hunting season. Right about now, you're off with all of your pals, stalking the big gigantic elk or buck mule deer that you've been thinking about all summer long. And your lovely wife is at home, probably enjoying her time without you. But soon, my friend, all of that is going to come to a screeching halt. And I want you to think about just one little thing. She's able to park her car inside the garage because all of your hunting crap is with you right now. Now, if you'd like the marital bliss to continue, I suggest you make a call to Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They can build you a garage or a barn or any other type of metal structure for you to store all of your toys in so that your wife can continue parking inside the garage. And you can avoid sleeping on the couch for the next month or two. Call Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Get them to build you a metal building before it's too late. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live. I'm David Iverson, doing what I was born to do each and every day. And thank you for watching the program, my friends. By the way, every time you watch an episode of the program or listen to the podcast, make sure that you like and share it. And if you would, leave me a review. I know, everybody says that. But it really does help. We want to make sure that, make the program get as big as possible and get the conservative message out. So if you could do those things for me, I would really appreciate it.
It kind of caused me to do a little introspection there.
Yeah?
I'm thinking, what was I born to do? That was a long time ago, and quite frankly, I can't remember.
Now, at that time, did you have to cart around your birth certificate with a hand cart?
No, that is a fallacy, perhaps, that's been printed somewhere like in the cow pie, and you just bought it. But
well, see, I ask questions, unlike Tom Lubnow.
Yeah. What I thought I was born to be in the first place was a cowboy.
Oh yeah.
And
I think all little boys think that they're.
Well, I think they might go through that phase. But my granddad talked to me. He says, "You know what? Cowboys are always broke. By the time they're 50, they're broken." And he said, do something else.
Yeah, you may not want to do that.
And I said, well, what do you think I'm going to be? And he said, oh, you'll be a carpenter. So,
you are a very good carpenter, by the way. I mean, Ken has...
not a very good cowboy.
Not a very good cowboy, but a good carpenter. All right. So before the break, we were talking about Tom Lubnow and the Wyoming Trial Lawyers Association holding this lunch meeting and just trashing conservatives through the whole thing. Though they don't come out and say conservatives are bad. That's the whole implication.
No, but they do say what is happening here is bad, and these are the people involved.
Yes.
So it's pretty
close, right?
It's pretty close.
So to catch you up, let's go ahead and play the Slither soundbite that is let's see here. It's the lawfare one. Go ahead and play that again.
You heard Tim do kind of a call out that we need more lawyers perhaps engaging in what we see as this lawfare in order to defend the rule of law, in order to both protect the judicial branch and our democracy. And I think that time is certainly upon us, as Tim indicated. It's not a matter of if, but when and how heavy those attacks are going to come on the independence of the judicial branch, as we have heard and as I have.
so glad she's there to protect our democracy.
Yeah, me too. Aren't you? Doesn't that make you feel so much better that Senator Slithers is there? Now, later on, she starts complaining about all of the attacks on her record, and how dare these people come after me? How dare they expose like who I am? And I just don't have any understanding why. Except, of course, that Senator Slithers has been almost personally responsible for the demise of a tremendous amount of conservative legislation. And she's pretty sneaky about it. Really, what she does most of the time is just pushes it down on the list so that it doesn't come up. And all of her liberal colleagues don't have to be on the record voting for it. But here's a piece. Let's see here. Play the soundbite. Slithers, I'm a conservative. Listen to this.
And this is even at these local level positions, right? So the challenge to our free and fair and democratic society is profound.
It's profound.
And I can't stress to you enough the need for your participation.
You have to participate.
How close it gets. So, these out-of-state PACs, which are numerous, like, who are these people attacking me and why? I don't really know. My record is quite conservative, and I don't actually do anything that controversial and try to do meaningful legislation that fundamentally helps people. So why the target? And I can only that fundamentally helps people. So I don't actually do anything that controversial and try to do meaningful legislation that fundamentally helps people. So why the target?
Okay, all right.
I can only suspect it has to do with some of the individuals behind these organizations, as Tom had.
Okay, so I don't know why they're going after me. I'm a conservative.
It's interesting. She says it can only have something to do with some of the individuals that are behind it. Well, for many years, Bo Beitman has been, I won't say the backbone, but he's been very popular with the Hazlitt Corporation. Hazlitt, whatever they call themselves, the group. Anyway, he's the one that initially turned them on to me, and that's fine. Fundamentally, we agree on a lot of things. But it's funny that after this last session, when Bo and Tara all of a sudden were on the same side and praising each other, here she's pointing a finger back.
Mm-hmm. That's
It's
why her
so,
name is Slithers, man.
It's so inconsistent.
Okay, so Slithers claims that she's a conservative. Now, there's a number of ways to judge whether one is conservative or not. One of those is how often do you vote with the Democrats? So if we go to Evidence-Based Wyoming and look at the 2026 budget session, Slithers only voted with the Republicans 59% of the time. So we'll give her 60% just because we like round numbers. So if the definition of a conservative is you only vote with your people 60% of the time, I mean, that's a pretty terrible record if you ask me.
We also figure in that half of your people really aren't conservative.
Right.
So you need to look at when did she vote with them and when did she not,
Right. And now, again, the only thing that Evidence-Based Wyoming does is it tracks how often one votes with the Republicans versus how often one votes with the Democrats. Now, you'll see on the list, go ahead and show it one more time, Ken. So you'll see here, there's a column that says liberal, very liberal, and if you were to scroll to the top, it would say conservative or moderate. So there is that, that conclusion, but it's all drawn from the data. And the way that it works is you just rank the legislators 1 through, in this case, we're looking at the Senate, so 1 through 31.
Yeah, he puts the cart behind the horse.
Yeah.
Let's look at the data, and then after we've seen all that and seen how people are grouped together, we can begin to
we draw some conclusions from that. Okay, so when it comes to Slithers, she votes with the Democrats, not just the liberal Republicans, but she votes with the Democrats 40% of the time. That's not the definition of a conservative in my book. In the Republican Party the phrase you hear all the time, and you've heard I've heard lots of very liberal Republicans say, well, I only have to, follow the Republican platform 80% of the time, which, by the way, is a bastardization of what Reagan meant by the 80-20 rule. But that's another story. So if the definition of actually being a Republican is following the platform 80% of the time, let's see where Slithers shows up. Now, this website is Wyoming, and what they do is they select 10 bills, and this is my problem with them, that I think it's kind of cherry picking. If you're going to rate according to bills, then you probably better rate them all. But
Yeah.
But they're consistent.
You can pick bills to make it say whatever you say, I think is their point. And
Sure.
there's something to be said for that. But if you did that, why does this website agree with virtually all the rest of them?
Yeah, and that's where I was going
Yeah.
next.
Sorry, steal your thunder
No, it's okay.
again.
So if you look at a site like WyoVote rates every single roll call vote, every single one of them. And typically, the scores pretty well match up with, WyoVote matches Rhino, which matches Evidence-Based Wyoming. And before you claim that they're all in cahoots, they're not. So Rhino is a measure of how often somebody follows the Republican Party platform. And in the 2026 session, Senator Slithers followed the platform 20% of the time. 2-0. So is Senator
That's pretty
Slithers
generous.
yeah, perhaps it is. But is Slithers a conservative? And I mean, the answer to that is no. She's not. Is she even a Republican? According to this site, well, she only votes with the platform 20% of the time. So yeah, I would say that if you are 80% of something, in this case Democrat, it kind of means that you're that thing. If it walks like a jackass and talks like a jackass and votes like a jackass, well, then it's a Democrat. And if you do that 80% of the time, well, you are, if you're a legislator, you are how you vote. And it doesn't really matter what bullcrap comes out of your mouth. So the truth is that Slithers, nor Tom Lubnow, nor old Stubby Tim Stubson, or probably most of the members of the Trial Lawyers Association are at all conservative. And I mean, you can look at the judges that are picked. By the way, the Bar Association picks lawyers to be on that selection committee. But I mean, down the line, we could make a pretty solid argument that Slithers is not a conservative. And so, to answer her question, well, I don't know why these groups are coming after me. It's because you're a liberal Democrat.
Now she has to be a conservative. She's from Riverton.
No, clearly that makes you a conservative. Not. I think that is. No, dang, man, it's muted. I think that's
Horse crap.
all right. So don't pay any attention to Tom Lubnow or Senator Slithers. Neither of them are going to give you the straight story. Now, there's a piece in NPR, and Agent 29, I sent this to you last night. This one is absolutely shocking.
And you wonder why I'm grouchy when I get in here in the morning.
Oh, wow, man. So from NPR, the national NPR, the title of this piece is Wyoming Lawmakers Use Pro-Natalist Arguments to Justify Proposed New Partial Abortion Ban. So what is pro-natalist? I don't even know. Let's look it up. I mean, I guess I should have looked that up before the program. Pro-natalist. Okay.
I know what prenatal is.
Well, I know what prenatal is.
There I can kind of glean what pronatal might be.
Yeah, so here's what Google says. Relating to the policy or practice of encouraging people to have children. Well, that's such a terrible thing. Why would we want to do that?
Must be Mormons or Catholics.
Yeah. So now let's read the title again. Wyoming lawmakers use pro-having babies arguments to justify the new partial abortion ban, as if that's a bad thing. And I quote, at the anti-abortion March for Life rally in D.C. last year, J.D. Vance had a clear message. So let me say very simply, I want more babies in the United States of America, Vance said to a cheering crowd. As birth rates fall in the U.S., prominent conservatives such as Vance are encouraging Americans to have more kids. It says children, but we'll put kids and babies in there, cute little cuddly babies. And then they
just don't say kiddos.
No, we don't say kiddos. They say that's crucial to maintaining the nation's workforce, and so there will be enough caregivers for an aging population. That argument makes sense. there's a point at which your population tends to recede, and I think it's like right around like two children per couple, but don't quote me on it. But at some point, if you have less than that number, the American population tends to recede. And I mean, we do want a population that increases, so you got people to work and make money and contribute and to take care of old people. That's not a bad thing. Now, according to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, quote, it is clinically inaccurate to describe what can be heard via an ultrasound during very early pregnancy as a heartbeat. Cardiac cells in an embryo may exhibit electrical activity that is detectable, but there are no cardiac valves that could generate the sound that people know as a heartbeat. The Wyoming law, which has now been temporarily blocked in court, prohibits abortions after cardiac activity can be detected, which is generally around the 6th week of pregnancy. So obviously, NPR is claiming that preventing us from killing a live little baby is a bad thing.
There's so many ways to go on that.
Oh, I know. We haven't got to the good part.
I'm just going to trust the science.
Yeah, I think you should. Okay, so, quote, we're sending a message that children are important and that they're the future, said Republican state lawmaker and former nurse Evie Brennan. Now, Evie Brennan and I do not agree on a whole heck of a lot of stuff, but on this one, we agree. We shouldn't kill babies. That's a bad thing. Brennan goes on, without an up-and-coming population that grows up here and wants to stay here, then we just become a stagnant or an aging/dying state, she added. Now, Susan Bell, and this is where the article really goes off the rails. Susan Bell, a demographer at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, said Wyoming's tactic is unlikely to substantially grow its population. Quote, imposing a ban on abortion is not going to transform the trajectory of a state's fertility pattern. Now, wait a minute. So killing babies, or stopping people from killing babies is not going to increase the state's population. How do you figure? I mean, it seems to me that if you're killing a whole bunch of little children, that's going to decrease the population.
Well, there's that. But this whole thing is just another straw man, because this argument is not about trying to refresh the population.
No,
this argument is about not killing babies.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're arguing for killing them, and here's how we know that, Ken. Quote, she added that abortion bans can lead to a short-term population bump. Wyoming's neighbor Idaho saw one after it instituted one of America's strictest abortion bans in 2023. Because you're not killing little kids. Maybe. But here is the really, really shocking claim. Quote, but what works out in absolute terms is only about 240 excessive births. It's only 240 kids, so why should we even do a ban on abortion anyway? It's only 240 babies.
Whatever happened to if it would save just one life?
No, that doesn't work here, Ken. I mean, that argument can be used against us, but it's the one we're using here is why even worry about it? It's only 240 babies. How absolutely reprehensible. And who is the person that wrote this? Oh, my God. That it's only 240 births, so we shouldn't even pay any attention.
Just a little aside. Could you imagine if the Mars rover turned over a rock and there was something under there, they got to investigate it, and it had living cells?
Yeah, a couple of single-celled organisms.
We have found life on Mars.
Don't kill it. No, we have to preserve it in all forms.
That would be funny. Turn the rock over. There's the little thing, and the rover goes out and goes.
We believe in abortion here. Just absolutely shocking. Okay, so in Wyoming, let's see here. Let me back up a bit. But at the same time, researchers found Idaho was hemorrhaging healthcare workers. It now has 35% fewer OBGYNs than before the law went into effect. In Wyoming, population loss has been an issue for decades, giving let's see here. It feels like a lot of students don't see a ton of opportunities and maybe necessarily in their fields to work here, said Lane, a college student. Okay, with purple-tipped hair. I mean, they go on. And by the way, later on in the article, the people that they're talking to about pregnancy and giving birth is a gay couple. that have no idea that it's physically impossible for them to have a kid. But think about the logic or the lack of logic behind this piece, that preventing children from being killed by an abortionist is somehow not going to increase your population, and therefore you shouldn't even worry about it. This has got to be one of the most reprehensible articles I think I've run into in a long time, and I mean that's saying a lot because I read a lot of stuff every morning. But according to NPR, hey, it's just 240 babies. It's just not enough to worry about. I mean, this is the line of thinking of pro-abortion advocates. It's just absolutely reprehensible.
Well, and they made up this idea that the whole reason we were doing this was to try to refresh the population of the state.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with saving little kids. No. It's just to refresh the population. But the fascinating part of it is the rest of the article talks about why young people leave the state. And unfortunately, I have to give credit where credit is due on this one. When I was in Jackson last week, attending that Democrat town hall, granted, the only so-called Republican on the panel was Andrew Byron. But he actually made a very compelling argument that it is not necessarily a bad thing that young people move out of the state and go elsewhere. Because if you stay in the state and you never go anywhere else and you never have any other experiences, how in the devil are you going to be able to, solve problems or learn? And he said the important part is that generally speaking, the people that grew up in Wyoming who move elsewhere end up coming back. And what Byron pointed out is that is the important metric. It's actually a good thing that our kids go out and, move to other places and then come back.
Especially when you look at the idea that the states are labs.
Yes.
How do
Laboratories
they
of
do
democracy.
things in Colorado? Look at what Tom Kelly said. He got run out of Illinois because he didn't like the way they're doing things.
It was his
there.
hair.
He goes to Colorado, and it's Illinois with mountains. You go look around, and I did the same thing. I was gone in exile for about 10 years. Actually,
too.
a little more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Serving in the Army, so I lived at all kinds of places. And man, as soon as I actually had the option of where I wanted to live, I beat it right straight back home.
Yeah, well, when I took a job in Virginia, I was given a 20% raise to transfer to that office and work out of the Virginia office. And you would think like a 20% raise for just about everything, that's mega bucks there. But what I didn't realize is the taxes in Virginia meant that I actually made less money, brought home less money by living there. A shocking number, but it's absolutely the truth. And what I quickly discovered by living in Virginia, that I needed to move back home as fast as humanly possible. Because you move to other places other than Wyoming, and you quickly realize what a great place that we actually live in. And that was Andrew Byron's point. Now, do I agree with Andrew Byron on, most stuff? No, because he votes with the Democrats. Well, here, I'll tell you. Just a second. From Evidence-Based Wyoming. Let's see here. Andrew Byron. Ooh, wow. He's kind of way far down on the list. Holy moly. Where is he? There he is. Okay. So Andrew Byron only votes. Here he is right here, right in the middle. He only votes with the Republican Party 21.8% of the time. So 80% of the time, I disagree with him. But on this point, he's right, that it's actually not a bad thing that our kids go to school here and then go elsewhere and then move back. And what happens most of the time is our young people move somewhere else, they meet somebody, they get married, and they start a family, and they realize where they're living at is probably not a good place to raise a kid. And then they move home.
And I don't want kids staying here that don't want to be here.
Yeah.
There is another aspect that often gets left out, and that is a lot of us here in Wyoming think Wyoming's full enough, and you just read bumper stickers and you'll see that.
Yeah, Wyoming doesn't exist.
Yeah. There's a whole motion, and the reason we live here is because it's not like the Front Range. And all of these efforts to turn us into that, whether it be the Wyoming Business Council or anybody else down there, they're meeting with a lot of more resistance than they might think. And people say, oh, you guys are anti-business. I'm not really anti-business, but I don't want to look like Colorado.
Well, no, and see, and this is the delicate balance that that you have, because Wyoming has a small population, about 580,000 people, and while we do want economic growth, you do want businesses to move here. There are some aspects of a booming population that you don't want, like a higher crime rate. Sprawling cities where you end up just having, what do they call it, a concrete jungle. Those are the things that I think most people in Wyoming would find undesirable. But do we want businesses? Sure, absolutely, yeah. Let's grow the economy. The right way.
I don't want acres of asphalt, because acres of asphalt now means that you got to pay a tax on all the rainwater.
All right. Let's go ahead and take our second break. And when we come back, a blast from the past. The Barack Hussein Obama is back in the media. We'll talk about him in just a second. Are you tired of all the meaningless political drivel floating around right now? Endless commentary that really doesn't have anything backing it up? Do you long for the days of true investigative journalism coming from an authoritative source who really doesn't care how popular and apparently good-looking a politician is? Fortunately for you, that's what I do on Cowboy State Politics. New episodes are published every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and you can get them anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest way is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There, you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles I might bring up during the course of the program. Cowboy State Politics Live, the program you're listening to right now, is broadcast every Tuesday through Friday beginning at 8 a.m. Pay attention to all of that other block-headed nonsense if you want. Just make sure that you don't miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live, moving along on a Thursday, a way better program than you'll find anywhere in the Wyoming media. And I mean, I understand the bar is set kind of low, but
once you found this show, why would you continue to look anywhere else?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, you don't have to look anywhere else, and if you do, and if you do pay attention to any other media outlets, you're probably a lot dumber for doing that. Just because, and it's not your fault.
You're just more uninformed. Words mean things.
Yeah, words do mean things. Ignorant. Okay, fair enough. But it's so much more fun to use. All right, fine. Anyway, my friends, the phone lines are open. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number to talk to me is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989.
Yeah, that's the number to talk to you. Nobody wants to talk to me today.
That's not true, Agent 29.
Nobody wants to talk to me today.
Well, I don't know about that. But anyway, so phone lines are open. And the question is, if you're a lawyer, if indeed you are a member of the bar, or if you were a member of the bar, perhaps you're retired, we want to know if in law school you were taught that we don't live in a democracy, that we actually live in a republic, because Senator Slithers doesn't know that, and neither does Tom Lubnow, and neither does the person that was running the Wyoming Trial Lawyers Association meeting. They don't know that.
Or 80% of the ones I've listened to in D.C.
Yes, they don't understand that either. So if you went to law school and you are pretty certain that we don't live in a democracy, and you learned that in law school, go ahead and give me a call. Also, if you just want to chime in and you've got some thoughts on anything we're talking about today, go ahead and give me a call. One more time, that phone number is 307-374-8989. So Ken, now you're a pastor in one of your many jobs, and all pastors in Wyoming.
I'm not currently pastoring,
Well, you have,
but it's kind of like once you've done that, you kind of wear that label till you die.
yeah. You don't get rid of it, nor do you want to. Well, maybe.
Well,
I mean, it depends on what's going on.
depends on what the issue is. Yeah.
But my point is that as a pastor, I'm sure that you have counseled married couples, and I mean, I know that my pastor on occasion does that, but I think that most pastors probably do. That if a couple is having some trouble in their marriage, go talk to the preacher.
It's been known to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but did you know that advice is absolutely wrong? That if you're having problems in your marriage, it's not something that you've done. It's not not paying attention to your spouse. None of that is true. Actually, what creates genuine tension in a marriage is Donald Trump. I kid you not. From the Daily Caller, former President Barack Obama said the pressure to be on the campaign trail for the Democrat Party is creating tension between he and his wife. The New Yorker interview with Obama, published Monday, shared how their marriage was affected by Barack's continual involvement in politics. The former president pointed to President Donald Trump as the reason for his involvement. You see, it's all Trump's fault. Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with him being a crappy husband.
This has taken derangement syndrome to a new height.
It has. Quote, she wants to see her husband easing up and spending more time with her, enjoying what remains of their lives, Obama said, adding that the pressure remains to be politically active against the Trump administration, despite the precedent of past presidents retiring out of politics altogether. It creates a genuine tension in our household, and it frustrates her. Now, Big Mike also said that he does his she does his best to accommodate her, but noted he understands why people are looking to him, despite, quote, the fact that no other ex-president was the main surrogate for the party for 4 election cycles after they left office. Now, so the truth is, they're not looking inward and saying, maybe you should pay attention to your spouse and come to an agreement. No. So it's really the fault of Donald Trump.
If I was married to Big Mike, I'd be on the campaign trail too.
Well, I mean, there's that too. I know
Hey,
some.
Bill, how you doing?
I know some married couples where they're just better apart, and it's not to say. I mean, I have a cousin that he and his wife work entirely different places, and it works for them. I don't know how. I don't know how you call that a marriage, but I mean, it seems to work for them. So maybe that's the solution, or I have perhaps an easier one. Why don't you just make a deal with your spouse and work together on it? When your wife or your husband is adamantly opposed to what it is that you're doing, maybe that's an indication that you shouldn't be doing it. But not according to the Obamas. Michelle struggled through her time as First Lady, saying on the Light podcast that upon leaving Trump's first inauguration, she was uncontrollably sobbing for about a half hour on Air Force One. Quote, it was a privilege to serve, but it was hard, and it was hard on our family, and it was hard on my daughters growing up in the spotlight. So wait a minute. Hold on a minute. So for 8 years, you lived in the White House, one of the most opulent places in this country, and you had your every whim catered to you. And you had jet travel, most of the time paid for by the public, to travel anywhere you wanted to go. You spent most of your time on vacation in far-flung places. Barack Obama spent more time on vacation, until Joe Biden. There might be a race there. But he spent a lot of time on the golf course, and that was so oppressive. I mean, how could we possibly ever ask a wife and a family to live in such undesirable conditions? I mean, it's truly heartbreaking. But the truth is, Ken, that if you have marriage problems, it is not your own fault. It is Donald Trump's fault. You believe that? Notice, no comments from the peanut gallery. All right. Now, one of the sources of consternation for the former president could be, now I don't know about this, but it could be that he is trying to put up his presidential library. And, you know, Lord knows that there is a ton of stuff.
The Ministry of Truth.
Well, it probably is. We'll get there in just a second. But there are so many things that President Obama needs to memorialize in a building so that they're there for future generations. Let's listen to a couple of them. Play the soundbite or the video that he's talking about business. Play that one, Ken. It's a classic.
If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we have that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
So why wouldn't we want something like that memorialized for all eternity so that everyone can see the brilliance of the great Barack Obama? I mean, it would take a building of immense proportions to house all of the great things that Barack Obama. Oh, there it is, the Ministry of Truth.
Talk about dark money.
Well, he actually called it sort of the. He talked about it as the Death Star. All right, so from the New York Post, Obama selling ugly merchandise shaped like his presidential center as architects reveal that he pushed for the Death Star design. Now, the truth is, he has to pay for this thing somehow. And now he is selling merchandise in the shape of his, there it is.
Is that what that's supposed to be?
Yes, that is supposed to be his presidential center.
That reminds me of the job that our speaker offered me at Nabisco.
It does, doesn't it?
Punching buttholes and animal crackers.
Well, you know, and I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to wear that on their lapel. I mean, do you know what they're charging for that? $30. $30 for that, whatever it is. The pin represents the intersection of bold design and global leadership, the website reads, noting that the proceeds go to the Obama Foundation to inspire, empower, and connect people to change the world.
When I see that, I think of global leadership. Yeah, they got it. They pegged it.
They pegged it, right? And everybody should have one of those, well, maybe not, on their lapel. Now, each pin is handcrafted from unfired paper clay and is 1.6 inches tall by 1 inch wide and is about the oversized as the center itself, which lords 225 feet over Chicago's Jackson Park in a monolith of concrete and granite. The $850 million center is slated to open in June after 10 years of development and criticism of the domineering design.
What does it say in the granite?
You are America, unconstrained by habit and convention. Who knows what it says?
You didn't build that.
Yeah, it says you didn't build that. Now here's the other part of this: that it was Barack Obama himself that pushed for that design. It wasn't an architect that said, "Hey, this is going to be a great building." It was Obama himself that pushed for the enormity of that thing. And if you're into architecture, this is what's called brutalism. It's in the very same vein as other U.S. government buildings, like a good example of that is the Hoover Building, where it's a stone edifice, not that many windows, and it's just boring and gray and just kind of ugly. But anyway, they're raising money to build this thing. But here's the problem. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh, see the Pendergraft building.
That's brutalism there.
Yeah. Well, no, that's something else entirely. That's actually kind of pretty.
It is. It won awards.
I bet it did. Now, here's the main problem with, Barack Obama's building. That in order to contain all of the lies that he told during his time as president, I mean, it takes an awfully large building to contain all of those volumes of sound bites and pictures and things that he's written. But Sean Hannity the other night, he encapsulated the biggest problem with this presidential center. And the problem is that Barack Obama is just not as good about lying as he was before. I'm going to play the video, Hannity on Obama. It's kind of long, but it's good.
But we begin with someone who yearns for the spotlight, never ending. It has been nearly a decade since Barack Hussein Obama left office, nearly 18 years since he was first elected as president, and yet Barack is still refusing to ride off into the sunset with grace and something called dignity. Nope. Instead, he's now desperate for validation, but his most recent sit-down with failed, soon-to-be out of work, so-called comedian Stephen Colbert was an important reminder about the constant deception, gaslighting, pious lectures that divided a nation. Take a look.
The White House shouldn't be able to direct the Attorney General to go around prosecuting whoever the president wants to.
Because technically it's under the executive branch. Technically, the norm is that it's independent.
The idea is that the Attorney General is the people's lawyer. It's not the president's consigliere. We can't overcome the politicization of the criminal justice system, the awesome power of the state. You can't have a situation in which whoever's in charge of the government starts using that to go after their political enemies or reward their friends.
We will address that directly in a second, but remember, we're just a bunch of bitter, angry Americans that cling to our God, our guns, our Bibles, our religion. He, of course, was hanging out the Church of GD America with Reverend Wright, palling around with admitted domestic terrorists, Bernardine Dohrn, Bill Ayers. Obama wrote the book on weaponization and politicizing justice. Remember his Attorney General, Eric Holder, bragging.
Okay, hold on just a second. So, we've got the never-ending string of Obama lies. Now, we do have a caller on the line who is from Chicago, and wants to talk about Obama's library. Sam in Cheyenne. Sam, what do you think of that big, gigantic building? Isn't it great?
Oh, that's me, right? It's Ann.
Ann, my call-in screen says Sam. Representative Lucas, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. I'm enjoying the show today. I was really calling to talk to Tim, though.
Oh, okay, fine. I don't want to talk to you either.
I predicted nobody in their right mind would want to talk to me, and I was right.
There you go, dude. No, I just wanted to say hi and that you're doing. David needs to be far more appreciative of you.
Oh.
The check's in the mail, Em. Thank you.
Yes, it is. It's always in the mail.
My pleasure. Appreciate that. So I didn't live in Chicago when Obama was president.
Thank God.
But I lived there when he was a state senator and when he became U.S. senator. And we all looked politically around and said, who the heck is this guy? And so, that was kind of a joke. But I want to tell you, have you seen pictures of this building?
Oh, yeah. We just showed a couple of them. It's crazy.
Well, that was, yeah. I mean, the pin, it looked like, was that a pin, some collectible? That actually looked pretty by comparison. This is going to be an ugly building. This is going to be a real ugly building, but it's also not in a choice neighborhood in Chicago. It's in Jackson Park, which is right there near Hyde Park, which is, ChatGPT would tell you to use caution walking or driving in that area.
Well, it is Chicago, and maybe you should just use caution everywhere you go.
I know. So just wanted to say, for a city that is going broke, and should be trying to attract people, tourism. The crime rate isn't helping, but then putting up buildings like this, that's just not helpful. Sorry.
Well, no, it's not. So, Ann, while I've got you on the phone, I hear that you've got an opponent. Do we know anything about it?
I heard that too. Well, they're connected. She and her husband. He was a deputy of an agency, and it was the State Land Investment Board, and he was the deputy director, and then for a while the acting director. And she's been involved in work that gets a lot of public funding.
Okay.
So there's that.
Okay.
But I think the thing that is most telling to me is when the announcements came out on Facebook, look who likes that stuff.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, you can just tell, when my former opponent like her. Yeah, Rod Miller likes her. Yeah, I love it. I bet you Tom will.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure the Gail Simmons endorsement is coming pretty soon.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that we can have a debate. I don't get a lot of practice at that in Laramie County because a lot of the folks on the other side don't like to debate, but I'm hoping to. Here we go, Jessica. Let's talk.
Yeah, well, I'm going to reach out to her and see if we can get her on the program and find out about her. I'm looking forward to. Of course, I like election season, man. I get to talk to so many people. It's tiring, but it's a lot of fun because I get to talk to a lot of you folks.
Dude, I agree with you. It is just the most fascinating work in the world.
All right. Well, Ann, appreciate you calling in, my friend. Good luck, and I'm sure we'll have you on the program for a longer interview. But appreciate you calling in.
Yeah. My pleasure. Take care, guys.
If you want to be part of the program to talk about Chicago or Obama's building, or what we really want to know is if you learned in school that we do not live in a democracy, that in fact you live in a republic. That is the question of the day. You can go ahead and give me a call. The phone number is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989.
We should have asked Ann the answer to that. She hasn't been to law school, but it would tell us whether or not whatever school she went to taught it.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Ann knows that we live in a republic.
Asked her.
I should have. It's true. All right, so let's. We left off with the Hannity video. Let's go ahead and play some more. So there's so much more fun talking about Obama.
About being Obama's wingman. And for years, with the help of his wingman, Obama routinely targeted his political enemies, journalists that ran negative stories. They were wiretapped, classified as traitors, business leaders with the wrong views. They were targeted. Some were even jailed. The GOP's rising star at the time, Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. Remember, he was utterly destroyed by Jack Smith over a series of cooked-up convictions that were all unanimously overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. And here's the big one. The 2016 Republican nominee for president, Donald J. Trump, and his campaign, his transition team, and his presidency, remember they were spied on by Obama loyalists that were gaming the FISA court system? But it wasn't just the courts. Remember, it was Obama who weaponized nearly every powerful lever of government against political opponents. And of course, that includes the IRS. Remember that little scandal? The FBI, even the intel community. And for the record, remember how the Russia collusion hoax began? It began, according to a 2025 report from the Director of National Intelligence, we now know, quote, new evidence uncovers Obama directed creation of false intelligence reports used to launch years-long coup to undermine President Trump and the American people. Now, remember, Obama personally, they had an intelligence, an ICA report that career senior intel officials, no, Russia did not impact the 2016 election. Well, he didn't like that conclusion. So he had a meeting in December of 2016 in his Oval Office at the time. And guess what? They came up with a new one to fit his narrative to go after Donald Trump. Ultimately, this weaponization of government resulted in 88 cooked-up felony charges against the Democrats' chief political rival and a famous mugshot seen around the world. But Obama is now deeply worried about Republicans because the GOP.
So what Hannity is talking about there is the lawfare that originated with the Obama administration. Lawfare, by its very definition, is a hostile campaign against a group or an individual. Ken, go ahead and play the Slither soundbite for me again. I'm talking about lawfare.
You heard Tim do kind of a call out that we need more lawyers perhaps engaging in what we see as this lawfare in order to defend the rule of law, in order to both protect the judicial branch and our democracy. And I think that time is certainly upon us, as Tim indicated. It's not a matter of if, but when and how heavy those attacks are going to come.
All right, so Slithers is saying we need more lawyers to engage in more lawfare. Exactly the same type of stuff that was on that Hannity video.
That message will resonate with the people. We need more lawyers.
We need more lawyers. I'm sure it will. But you see, these lawyers didn't intend for their conversation to get out into the public, and that's why Tom Lubnow and his crew are all pissed off that this thing did get out into the media. And well, now everything they said, well, everybody knows. Yeah, we need more lawfare. Now, one of the things that Slither said that I think is important, to defend the rule of law. Is it possible to use lawfare, that is a hostile attack, legal attack on a whole group? Is that defending the rule of law? Is contriving false reports, is that defending the rule of law? Is judicial activism, that is writing law when you're a member of the judiciary, creating statute or creating laws out of thin air, is that the rule of law? No, really, what Senator Slithers and Tom Lubnow and the rest of their cronies at the Wyoming Trial Lawyers Association are interested in doing is using the law to prevent conservatives from gaining power. That's exactly what the lawsuit against the Wyoming Freedom PAC was all about. That's exactly what it was about. If you sat in the gallery that day when they were talking about the amendment to prevent Chuck Gray from filing briefs with other states, Ken, I think it was you that said we all know what this amendment is about. But of course, being on the floor, you couldn't come out and say it. But I'm pretty sure it was you.
I remember saying something to that effect. Yeah, and it wasn't greeted with gasps as if I had said
something shocking.
Something shocking. Yeah, there was no question what we were talking about.
Yeah, like everybody knew down there. Now, I will admit, sitting in the gallery, it took a couple minutes to figure out exactly what they were going after, but that's what it was about. It was about Donald Trump being on the ballot, pure and simple. But beyond that, even if that was a stretch, even if, as the judge said in his order, that, well, it's kind of a stretch, but you can say a lot of things in politics. Even if that part is true, it is absolutely freedom of speech. That every American politician or otherwise has the right to express themselves. Now, you don't have a right to say anything that's not true, but they didn't do that.
Well, even that, you have a right to your own opinion. You have a right to express that opinion, even if it's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll stand up for the people's right to say stupid things. That's why I like to see some people come on this show.
The free market doesn't exist and all that stuff. Well, Ken, it's interesting you bring that up, that you do have the right to be absolutely ignorant and stupid. And some of those people are at the highest levels of power. From the Blaze, Alito shreds Ketanji Brown Jackson's unhinged dissent to the Supreme Court of the United States' demand that Louisiana immediately redistrict. Now, this goes back to the redistricting ruling that happened last week or the week before. But here's what the Blaze says. And I quote, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a hugely consequential 6-3 ruling in Louisiana versus Calais last week, striking down the Bayou State's controversial 2024 congressional map as an unconstitutional racial gerrymander and providing some much-needed clarity on whether compliance with the Voting Rights Act can indeed provide a compelling reason for race-based redistricting. Democrats and other liberals, including Justice Elena Kagan, condemned the ruling, construing it as a gutting of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and a setback for racial minority representation in the state. While it customarily waits 32 days after a ruling to issue its judgment, the Supreme Court on Monday granted Louisiana's fast-tracked request and immediately finalized its opinion in the case. Now, the court noted in its unsigned order that and if the court issues an unsigned order, it means that there's general agreement, right? That they agreed as a group to say, we're not going to sign this. We're just going to issue it from the court. A lot of rulings, like the one that sticks in my mind is the Obamacare ruling lawsuit that made it all the way to the court. It was John Roberts that wrote that majority opinion. So sometimes they sign it, sometimes they don't. Now, after criticizing Louisiana's eagerness to ditch its unlawful congressional map in the wake of the Clay ruling, Ketanji Brown Jackson said, quote, "To avoid the appearance of partiality here, we could, as per usual, opt to stay on the sidelines and take no position by applying our default procedures. But today, the court chose the opposite." Jackson said further that the court's expedited certification of the ruling, quote, "is tantamount to an approval of Louisiana's rush to pause the ongoing election in order to pass a new map and represents an abandonment of constraints and principles that is unwarranted and unwise." All right, so a Supreme Court justice is accusing a state of trying to put an election on hold. Holy crap. Now, you have to understand the gravity of that situation. Now, I understand the words gravity and the name Ketanji Brown Jackson rarely end up in the same sentence. But you have to understand how big of a deal this is, that a justice of the Supreme Court is accusing a state of trying to stop an election, which, of course, they're not doing. The Democrats' congressional map was challenged rightfully, and the Supreme Court said that it's unconstitutional. So Samuel Alito underscored in an opinion joined by Clarence Thomas and Neil Gorsuch that the charges leveled in Jackson's dissent cannot go unanswered, and that part's in quotation marks. The conservative justice pointed out that if Jackson had her way, the 2026 congressional elections in Louisiana would be, quote, held under a map that has been held to be unconstitutional, and that the Biden-nominated justice had failed to make a case for why it is somehow now too late for Louisiana to adopt a new constitutionally compliant map and, quote, not feasible for elections to be held under such a map. In response, Jackson did provide for dooming Louisiana to an unconstitutional map. So it goes on, but the reason I bring this up is that there are activists at all levels of power. And sometimes when you hear the phrase, in Wyoming, we have to defend the rule of law, really what that means is we have to defend the liberal position in the state. We have to defend those lawmakers who craft legislation that benefits us or benefits this group or that group. In the case of the trial lawyers, obviously, they want legislation that benefits them, that is going to create a more litigious environment, that more lawsuits are going to be filed, that there's more work for them. That's the rule of law that they're talking about. It doesn't really have any relation to, what you and I think the rule of law is. Well, let's take our last break, and when we come back, we'll finish up the program. Maybe. I don't know. Can we have another break? There it goes. Yeah, I know. The weather seems to be toying with us. 60 one day, 42 the next, and pretty soon, my friends, those 6s and 4s are going to turn into 3s and 2s. Though we all want to avoid it, that white stuff is coming, my friends, and you will be shoveling the walk in it. It's cold, it's unpleasant, and nobody likes to do it. But you could make it just a little bit more comfortable and prevent your feet from turning into a giant block of ice. In fact, you could keep them nice and warm and toasty, and your toes will never even know that they're outside. The rest of you may be frozen solid, but at least your feet won't be. To make all this happen, you just need a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listen to the president just a little bit too closely and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day. I'm only gonna get stronger.
Cowboy state politics is only getting stronger. And every day I look at the metrics and I can't believe how many of you actually listen to the program. I say this a lot, but you do not understand how big of a place you take up in my heart. Thank you for watching. Thank you for everything you do. Welcome back to the program. Now, before the break, we were talking about how all these trial lawyers are trying to, protect the rule of law. We have to use lawfare to protect the rule of law. Well, in many cases, the rule of law they're talking about is protecting all of the money that goes to this group and that group, and the taking your tax dollars and shoving them away. And way beyond what it takes to run the state for a year or 2 years or 4 years. And the truth is, there are billions of dollars that are stashed away in government coffers. In fact, I mean, the rainy day fund, I mean, really, when you get it all down to it, it's $32 billion. $32 billion of your money. It's not, the government doesn't have its own money. It's your money, and it's socked away where you can't touch it. I mean, that's just wrong.
I need to address that and add a little bit of clarity, because I'm getting some feedback that people are kind of getting the wrong idea. One of the first things they get the idea is that I want to take this $34 billion, depending on what you're looking at, and spend it down.
Okay.
We don't need to have that money and spend it down. That is not at all what I'm saying. In fact, over half of that amount is actually already, already dedicated. For example, a big portion of that is a retirement fund for state employees.
Mm-hmm.
No, we can't touch that money. We shouldn't touch that money. That's how the system is set up, and that's fine. That's right. The Hathaway Fund, for example. Let me see. I've got a note here. It's almost $1 billion. It's $891 million in there. It was there for a specific purpose. But there are.
Okay, so hold on.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you here.
No, I do you. I don't mind.
Well, no, I do. But anyway, so the amount of cash that's stashed away ought to be for legitimate government purposes. And no doubt some of that is for those things, right? So you mentioned the Hathaway Scholarship, the pension fund. Those are, I mean, we could argue how the process by which those things are funded. I mean, we could argue about the politics surrounding it, but those things are legitimate, okay? But that doesn't mean those are not taxpayer dollars stashed away.
That's true. There are a number of boards and commissions across the state, and one of the things we do in Wyoming is we kind of bury a coffee can. We set up a trust fund, and the monies from all those are put into pools, and we invest that, and we make income off of that. But that trust fund then spins off investment monies that pay for that board to go, and basically they're just put there on auto. And
off budget, by the way.
Largely,
a lot of them.
Largely. Anyway, there's a lot of different pools of money. Now, the one that we most often call the rainy day account is the Permanent Wyoming Mineral Trust Fund. And as of February 28th, we had invested 9.8, but the market value of that fund is just over $13 billion. And then we have all these other funds and trust funds and things together. The point is there's a lot of money there. Now, I failed to bring my notes on what cities and counties have set aside.
You know where you can find that
but
number?
I do know where I can find it, but I don't want to bury people in numbers.
Well, no, okay. So, there's a place you could go. But if you want to see all these numbers, go to the Facebook page, Wyoming by the Numbers. And our pal B. Alfred Marshall has done a great job of putting together all of these state of Wyoming numbers. And by the way, the numbers you're going to see on there, those are straight from the state of Wyoming. I mean, those aren't outside groups or outside organizations. Those are numbers that are reported by the state.
Yeah,
the state of Wyoming.
And that's good. And thank you for bringing that up, because you might be surprised at some of the counties that are screaming about we're broke. And don't get me wrong, a government entity needs to have money set aside for incidentals, for things like that. A city or county might be saving money to buy a fire engine that needs to go there. And we've been discussing rules where those entities can invest that money that they're saving for a particular purpose that's set aside. That's not what I'm necessarily decrying. And I'm not necessarily saying that $34 billion is way out of line.
I am.
and you're welcome to that. I have maybe a little bit better grasp about what it actually costs to do things than a lot of people do, thanks to serving on appropriations. But the point is, our treasurer, for example, wants to set up another program where we take another $100 million of taxpayer money out of the economy and start another fund to build up yet more money that the government can then use. And that's my point, is we're taking all this money out of the economy because we think we can spend it better or more effectively. Yes, there is a place for government to have savings. Yes, there is a place to do that. Whether or not we're beyond that point now is a matter of opinion. But we don't, I'm just saying, when does it end? When is enough enough?
Yeah, but I don't buy the argument that, it's this money is in this account for this purpose, and this other chunk of money is over here. And often what you'll hear from boards and commissions and different groups is, we got this money and it is only for this particular purpose, and we only use it for that purpose. This other pot of money over here, we use that for everything else. Well, most of the time that's bull crap, and it's all in one account. And okay, so the accounting has to be different, but really, it's all one pot of money. And Wyoming citizens don't look at the state's coffers in terms of individual funds. Okay, now is that important? Yeah, I would say so. But really, when you tell the average Wyoming citizen that, look, the state has $32 billion socked away, they really don't care which account it's in. It's still $32 billion of their
and,
money.
And that's why I had been presenting it the way that I have for the last quite a while.
Yeah, well,
I'm trying not
to
bury people in numbers and semantics and all those other things, and just help them to understand there's a tremendous amount of money at the disposal of government. And then here's my issue. We know that some of that money is spent on dumb stuff. I've said that
a lot of it
many times. One brief example that we go to many times here in Sheridan County, across the street from the courthouse is the county attorney who, quite frankly, they're struggling to be able to pay an attorney to do what the state is obligated to do. So rather than pay them enough to do what the state needs to do to survive at a market level, they spend $3 million on this god-awful flower pot, which is going to have to be torn out in a few years anyway because they're going to have to expand the courthouse. But those are examples of what bothers us. You have all of this money stored away. I see you spending money in places where I think is foolish, and I don't think it should be spent. And I have to drive on highways that are crap.
Yeah.
And right or wrong, whether it's true or not, the Wyoming Department of Transportation is saying we're now almost $600 million short of where we think we should be.
Okay, fine. Take part of that $32 billion and even them up.
Yeah. Yeah. My whole point, do the things that and I've said this many times, do the things that you're supposed to do, that you're obligated to do constitutionally, do them right, pay them adequately. I don't mind paying somebody who's a state employee a fair wage, absolutely.
Well,
but when you have to pay hundreds of thousands of state employees that don't really need to be there.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you bring up a very important point. That the largesse of government is way more unwieldy than any of us really understand. The truth is, for every 10,000 Wyoming citizens, there are 800 state employees, probably more because that number's a little bit old. But we have, like, the number one industry in Wyoming is not coal, it's not oil and gas, it's not tourism, it's government.
Yeah. Let's go back to the Sunbucks thing for just a second, because that shows how government does things. If you're going to set up a one-person office to administer funds to feed hungry children,
allegedly,
how much do you think that's going to cost you? Are you going to need a $30,000 a year budget just for printing?
No.
We have the internet. There are other ways that we can get the word out.
Exactly.
And it goes on and on and on. So $3.5 million to set up an office before we've ever fed anybody. And that's a redundant program. We already have many programs out there that are feeding
the same
kids.
thing.
Yeah. But that's what government does. And when you start saying, okay, well, we need to trim it back, we need to cut it back a little bit. Okay, now you start pointing the finger and putting at this one. Every one of them squeals, and every one of them is important to somebody, and every one of them does fulfill a need of some sort. And the perception of that need among those that receive it is critical. So once you get a government program started, it's virtually impossible to cut it off. And you saw that with what we tried to do this last session.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So you just mentioned the attorney's office. Okay, here in Sheridan, they don't have enough money to pay an attorney to prosecute crime. So what they do is they hire it out, and it ends up costing us more money. But do you know what the county commissioners did on Tuesday? They voted to give away $3 million of your money. Now, you've got a county attorney's office that's right across the street. They can't pay to have a prosecutor, and you're giving $3 million away. Now, in various chunks and little bits and dribs and drabs. But still, the total is a huge amount of money. You spend $3 million on that stupid flower pot, which is the ugliest darn thing I've seen in a long time. But you don't take care of the essential functions of government. And the biggest problem is that government doesn't work the way that your finances work. You know, in your own household, if you start spending more money than you're bringing in, you're broke. If your debt eclipses your income, there isn't a credit card company around that will give you any credit. You can't go to the bank and get a loan because you already owe too much. Well, we're told at the same time you need to be putting money away, and then you absolutely should, and it's a good thing. So you stash money away for a rainy day.
In the inevitable possibility that what?
That something bad happens.
Income will stop.
Yeah. Or that you retire, that you got enough cash set back to where you can live comfortably. But you see, in government, first, we don't handle the essential functions of government very well, i.e., the attorney's office right down the street. But we do take a tremendous amount of money from Wyoming taxpayers, and we sock it away in coffee cans. And, and I don't know a single person that has enough money socked away that they can pay for all of their expenses without anything else for years on end. 4 years on end.
There's enough money in the Permanent Mineral Trust Fund right now to run Wyoming for 2 years without a dime coming in. That means no sales and use tax, no mineral, nothing. And okay, that's kind of nice. It's kind of a comfort. It's nice to have the money.
Sure.
About a third of our income comes in off of the income from those investments. Those all things are nice. But when's enough?
Yeah. How much is enough? I mean, how much of Wyoming taxpayers' money do you have to take and sock away and not give it back? And if you look at all the municipalities, counties, and towns, the amount of money that is stashed away is way more than $32 billion. I mean, it is a tremendous amount of money.
That number that he shows on the report he gave me last night includes the 34. So it's, I hate to differ with you, but the cities and counties, I think, the number is probably closer to 10 billion that they have stashed. But
right. So 10 billion. If you add up,
we're saying, oh, it's only 10 billion.
I know. So if you start, if you're claiming that the amount of money that is stashed away in government is 32 billion, and you've forgotten $10 billion over here, it's way more than your original number. It's 42 billion. It's not 32 billion. I mean, that's what I'm getting at. Is there is a crap load of money laying around in various boards. There's a cemetery district in Johnson County that has $2 million of reserves. Tell me, what does a cemetery need with $2 million worth of reserves? I mean, I maybe buy a piece of equipment, but still, it's not $2 million. What about the one in Gillette that's got 50? I mean, it is absolutely crazy the amount of money we have stolen from Wyoming citizens, and that we've just got socked away. The whole time, we're saying we need more money. Well, when is enough enough? When can we say, all right, you've paid enough on your property. You paid enough in property taxes. We don't need you to pay any more. You think that conversation will ever happen?
How about somebody that's driving a 25-year-old vehicle and still spending $300 a year on plates?
Yeah.
How about we go back to the old way? And it's been brought up several times. Let's go back to the old way where after you've paid for 5, 6, 10 years, the number drops off. Oh, no, we can't afford that. We can't afford that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's hard to tell people we can't afford things when we're sitting on $30 or $40 billion.
I know.
Even if a large portion of that is committed to pay somebody's retirement,
yeah,
it still gives the appearance.
I mean, it is still, well, and I think it's more than an appearance. I mean, it's a gigantic amount of money that is socked away. And here's the other thing too. Wyoming citizens are told that we have to have money for the one I always go to is a new prison. Now, you were at the prison last week?
Yes, I was, and they let me out.
Yes. You had a nice lunch though. Tacos. Okay,
they were pretty good.
So when you called me from Rawlins, you said, "Man, David, some of the doors don't close in the prison. That sometimes they find rattlesnakes inside the prison." Now, I mean, we might argue that maybe some of the criminals that live there deserve a rattlesnake or two, but still, you have a building that is old, that is dilapidated, and that needs to be. We need to build a new one.
The reason it hasn't been built, a new one built, is we keep stealing that money to do other things.
What? No.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. They set aside a big chunk, and I'm guilty too. I stole money out of it, but you know what I stole it for? to buy a new set of locks and monitoring for that same prison, and they were so grateful to have it. They showed us what was there, and it brought them into the 20th century, which is not a bad thing,
Which is
except for we're in the
crazy.
21st century now.
I mean, my favorite story about that is it was actually Steve Harshman who was instrumental in starting the fund to build the new prison. And the story I heard is that initially we put something like $90 million into this fund. Well, weird, a couple of years go by and they still haven't built a new prison. And yet somebody used that money. Oh, that's right. It was Steve Harshman that ran another bill to use a giant chunk of that money elsewhere. So we set up coffee cans for an initial reason, and you could easily make the argument that, hey, we need this amount of money to build a new prison, and you could probably get most people to say, yep, we got to have a prison. I think that's important. The old one's crap. Let's build a new one.
Yeah, same thing if we're going to need a new car in 3 or 4 years, so let's set a certain amount aside each month so that
So
when
we
it
can buy a
gets
brand
there,
new car.
we can, yeah, and if we can't, we can at least put a huge down on it.
Right. But when you tell Wyoming citizens, well, sorry, we need another $90 million to build the prison, the question that comes up is, wait a minute, what happened to the other $90 million?
The leaky coffee can.
Yeah, I mean, when you understand that there are over 600 different trust funds, coffee cans set up with various amounts of millions of dollars in them, I mean, and you add them all up, it becomes a shocking number. And you wonder why people who advocate for spending more money end up getting kicked out of office. Because quite frankly, Wyoming citizens are done continually feeding money to the Leviathan that is down in Cheyenne. I mean, it's absolutely outrageous. All right.
Before we leave this, just one quick thing. That kind of leaves one last statement that I've been making quite a bit that isn't really well liked in Cheyenne. One of the problems with 1/3 of our income coming from our investments is that the people don't feel the weight of the burden that we've put on ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like if you had some sort of a trust fund sitting there and was paying for your lifestyle, and if for some reason if that went away, now you're used to a lifestyle you flat can't afford.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at.
Absolutely. So I was yesterday. I meant to show you this yesterday, but occasionally different stories come up, and I just got to show them to you. So this one is, and this is completely random, but I was pretty blown away when I saw this. So there's a story from Fox News, and it's entitled "South African Police Airlift Massive Crocodile Suspected of Eating a Missing Local." And I've got a picture of it. Look at the size of this thing. Okay, now in the picture, it's kind of hard to tell exactly how big that crocodile is. I mean, it looks like a pretty big beast, right? But look at this one. So this is them airlifting the crocodile after they killed it. Look at the size of that thing. It's bigger than the guy hanging from the rope. So this crocodile ate somebody.
That's a big guy too.
Yeah, I mean he's not a small individual. So the Fox News piece says authorities in South Africa carried out a high-risk recovery operation over the weekend, airlifting a massive crocodile suspected of eating a local resident. Aren't you? I mean, this is yet another reason why I'm very happy that I live in Wyoming. And there's a lot of them, but now on the list is we don't have any crocodiles. We don't have critters that can swallow me whole.
No, we have several in Wyoming that can chew you up.
Yeah, I mean,
and
grizzly
swallow
bears,
you.
but they can't swallow me whole. I mean, it's like not down the hatch. I mean, but I just saw this and I was like, wow, that's something else. Another one of those, and not gigantic crocodiles, but riddle me this, riddle me that. What would happen, Ken, if we had an amusement park and we said we're going to have a Christians only day, that the only way that you can go to this amusement park is if you are a Christian? What would happen? I mean, it would be a torrential downpour or a torrent of, "You're white nationalists! How dare you!"
Separation of church and state.
Yeah. But in Texas, There's a water park that had a Muslim-only event. And I quote, this is from the New York Post. A taxpayer-funded Texas water park is getting splashback for a Muslims-only event next month after a local Islamic group rented out the facility. A flyer for the DFW, so Dallas-Fort Worth Epic Eid event on June 1st noted 3 times that attendance was strictly for Muslims and modest swimsuits were required. No string bikinis, no sexy swimsuits. It has to be modest because it's a Muslim-only event. Radio host Dana Lash asked, quote, how is the taxpayer-funded, city-owned entity allowed to discriminate against non-Muslims at a water park? So it's not even a private outfit. It's a public water park.
But it is private because they use that word rented. Now, did they pay the full cost of being open? I don't know. But they rent it. And the reason I bring this up, as we as a youth group here in Sheridan used to rent where we had the skating rink up at the fairgrounds, we used to rent that building once a week for an evening, and it was a private affair rented by there. So I wonder in that article what it means by where they rented this place and had their Muslim-only thing. Just trying to be fair.
No, I think that's great, but I will counter you with this one, Ken. If you go down to City Hall and you say, I need a covered picnic area at the park for an event, you say, I need it Tuesday at 6 o'clock. They'll charge you a fee, but they will also tell you that they cannot guarantee that that's only for your use. You might show up to the park in your covered awning, and there might be somebody else camped out there, but they will not guarantee it. Now, of course, this is the difference between Wyoming and Texas. But think about that, right? That in the comparison I was driving at is what would happen if it was a Christian-only event and it was publicized as such. I mean, it would be, you would have every media outlet in the state saying, how dare those Christians exclude other people. See, we told you they're Christian nationalists. That would be the headline. It wouldn't just be, hey, this group rented out the water park. And, I mean, this is where we're at, right? That we create situations where we benefit one group over another, and then we publicize it. I have no problem having a Muslim-only event, but I do have a problem if it's at a public, a public facility, and you've advertised it as such. And perhaps the biggest problem is that it was advertising. If it was for a private wedding or something, I think that would be different. But you're advertising it and saying, hey, anybody who fits into this category can come to our event. It's not necessarily private. The only part of it that's private is you have to be of a specific religion. I think it's absolutely wrong. All right, so kind of another roadmap for how we're going to do the rest of the week. Tomorrow we'll be in the home studio. And then the first part of next week, I'll be traveling over the weekend. And so I don't know if we'll have a program Tuesday or not. I'm going to try really hard to do at least an hour Tuesday morning, but no promises. I got to see what's going to happen during the weekend. But we'll see you tomorrow. And for now, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics.